Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome back. Here we are in the 4th episode of the Siren song, and I have finally got a layout that I'm fairly happy with. I've imported it into NoLimits 2, and I even ran a depump on it. So the first thing I'm doing is just creating the terrain for the ride. Keep in mind that the concept for this comes from the Greek legend of the Sirens, who sat on a rock and sang a song that was so alluring that it caused sailors to steer their ships towards the rocks, and eventually the ship would run aground and everyone would perish. So what I am doing here is creating the sea and the ocean, just lowering the terrain and getting it ready to basically look like it's at least partially at sea. What I'll do later on, you'll see, is I'll bring in a skybox that I used in another project a long time ago called Glade Runner. It's a really nice skybox. I'm not 100% certain it goes well with this. I might do something that's a little more rainy or overcast or something. It's a very bright, cheerful skybox, so we'll see. But for now, I put it in there as a placeholder, and I'm just lowering the terrain. This is so satisfying for me to watch in sped up like this, because it takes so long to do in real life, and it really makes me wish that NoLimits had something like Planet Coaster, where you could just make everything a tool that you could use where you could say, okay, now set everything to the same level as this particular point, and just sort of drag it around and make things a lot easier. Maybe they do, maybe I don't know about it. So if they do, let me know, but I don't think they do. So what I decided to do here was add 2 tunnels. I don't know how this idea came to me, but I really liked it. Once I did it, I hadn't anticipated putting any tunnels in here, but I really liked what it does for the ride experience, because that's a part where you're racing along the ground. There are 2 little airtime hills there, and I think they both pull about negative 0.7 Gs, which is fairly strong. And I like just going in and out of the tunnel, run one right after the other like that. It's one of the better parts of the ride now, I think, actually. I'm going to already go ahead and do a shout out to 2 people. Here we go. So you can see right here, I have FluxTrance, I believe that's his name. I usually just call him Flux. I have his rock pack, which is awesome. He made some awesome rocks. And I'm going to be using them extensively in this build, so they're going to be all over the place. So the first person I want to give a shout out to is Flux, for letting everyone use his great rocks. And you can see the technique I'm using here is to, in some cases, make them much bigger just by increasing the scale, moving them around and so forth, because I'm trying to create the look of a very rocky island, because this is taking place in the Mediterranean in Greece. And I did a lot of Google searching about the coast of Greece and images for it, just to see what it looks like, and it's a very rocky Mediterranean arid region. So I'm also choosing plants for the most part that look very dry. For some reason, you see some of these trees in NoLimits, they look, despite what type of trees they are, they just look very dry to me. So, and that goes along very well with this sort of region, because you wouldn't have some sort of lush thing there like an elm or something like that. It would just look totally out of place. So I'm working on this one area at first. This is where we have the reverse Fury 325 turnaround, and this is really supposed to be the place where the sailors would be going down, because they rise up and then sort of swoop down and around over these rocks, which I'm placing right here. So this was the first area I wanted to kind of nail down. And to go back for just a second, I said I wanted to give 2 shout outs. The first was to FluxTrance. The second is to N7, because I used a lot of his trees, or actually I used some of his trees in here. I'll be using them all over the place, and he's made some really great looking trees. So definitely a shout out to him as well, because they're going to be used a lot in this build. So this was the first area that I wanted to get down, get just sort of done, so I could take a look at it, see, am I going the right direction? Does this look right to me? And another thing I did was, after I import the skybox, which you'll see in a little while, is I used some textures for white sand, just to make this look a little more sandy, because right now it looks kind of weird with that grass everywhere. And I was getting kind of a feeling that it looked really sloppy, and it wasn't turning out exactly the way I liked it. But at the same time, it's not finished, so I kept plugging away at it, and I think it looks okay. This is also one of my favorite parts of the ride once this gets sort of finished up a little more, so I think I'm going to go ahead with it. But it was definitely something I was contemplating to maybe go a different direction with the theme altogether, because this wasn't 100% working out the way I wanted it to. I wasn't totally happy with the way these rocks were looking. So if you have a comment on it, feel free to comment in the comments and let me know what you think of it. For now, I'm going to keep plugging away at it. We'll see what we come up with. I'm definitely going to have to do some more terraforming just to lower some of the background and so forth and make it more like one side of it is the seashore and the other side is the open ocean. And I know how to, years ago I did a skybox that blended the open ocean seamlessly around the edges. It really turned out well. So I'll probably have to do something like that in Photoshop for this as well. But I might just leave it the way it is once I add the skybox. I don't know, it looks alright to me, and as long as you're not up high, you don't see it too bad. So we'll see what I decide to do, because this I think is going to take me longer than I anticipated, because there's a lot of shoreline in this this build, and I'm going to have to do something all the way around, I guess. With these big rocks, I'll probably just make them bigger, so because from a distance you don't need this level of detail, so we'll see. When I ride the coaster, though, I do like this portion quite a bit. The going over the rocks and all that is really cool. I think once I add the supports, it'll look good, and I am going to go ahead and do custom supports on this. Typically I don't do that. I'll do them where necessary. Certainly in this section I'll probably have to do that, just to make it look a little more finished, I guess. I know people get into that quite a bit. It's not really my thing, but I'll go ahead and do it, just to put the effort in. And anybody who knows a lot about supports, feel free to give me feedback on that as well, because that's not one of my strong suits. I tend to be much better at the landscape and so forth, in the building. But I'll go ahead and do it just to do it and to make it look good, and not just stick up the sort of in-game supports that don't always look that great. And I think it'll look well, or it'll look good in this section. So in just a minute, I think it's coming up where I switch the skybox, and I apologize for not actually showing you that. I know actually a lot of people don't know how to do custom skyboxes, and there was a tutorial online years ago that showed you how to do it, and I haven't seen one recently. I know the one that I originally learned from is no longer available. So I originally recorded me setting up the skybox and so forth, but for some reason it didn't actually save the recording, so that part is gone. But if I change it up again, I'll definitely try to record that. And if anybody needs me to show them or give them advice on how to do a skybox, it's really not that difficult. I know some people spend a lot of time doing it, actually making it. I think Projection does a really good job on his skyboxes. I'm assuming he makes them himself. I generally use a different technique. I know some people make them in Photoshop with the clouds and that sort of thing, which I've done before. To me, it's very time consuming. I know a much simpler way to do it, and it certainly ends up looking more photorealistic because you use an actual photo, and it's very effective a lot of times. So if somebody wants me to show them how to do that, or you want to see a video about making a skybox, let me know, and I can do that too. I don't mind. Certainly, like I said, I know the resource that I originally used is gone, so, and I've seen on some of the forums and some of the chats and so forth that people didn't know how to do it, so I'd be happy to show you how to do that if you need me to. So here you can see me just picking plants, trying to decide on something, and here I found some of N7's little bushes, which probably are not ideal for this location, but they're the sort of plants that would be in a very arid region, so I went ahead and put them there. They certainly wouldn't be that close to the water, that's for certain. Alright, so I'm going to continue adding some rocks here just to make this look like a really rocky island that's kind of sticking out here. I guess it's a peninsula. And in just a moment we're going to change the skybox, and we're going to also start using the new sand texture, which kind of turns out well. I like the way it looks to a degree. Another problem I have with this is it's starting to look like a combination of two other builds that I did once before. One was called Glade Runner, because I used the same skybox as that, and the other one was called the Outrigger, which I've mentioned in another video, because I used a sort of white sand texture. And here you can see, so here's where I've started doing the sand detail, and I've added the skybox in the background. So you can see, obviously, it's very photorealistic. So at this point, when I ride the ride, I like this section of it quite a bit. So I'm going to continue along with this and see how it comes along. If I am completely unhappy with this, I might take it a totally different direction. I've got other ideas for what I could do with it, so we'll see about that. But for now, I think I'm going to leave it as is, keep working, keep plugging away at it, and see if I can turn it into something that I like reasonably well. So that's about it for now. I'm going to keep working on this. By the way, I always find this really creepy. What I'm doing here is I'm, well, right here I'm not doing it, but I'm trying to bring the sand up so it looks like it's fading gradually. It's getting deeper and deeper and deeper. And I always find that really creepy when you see things underwater that they're like disappearing like that. I just find that really creepy. So, let's see. I'm going to keep working on this just for a second, and I'll end the video with some glamour shots. As always, I appreciate any comments or feedback that you have. Let me know if you like the build, if you don't like it, if you think I can improve it. Anything you want to let me know, I'm happy to hear. But otherwise, I will see you in the next video. Take care and enjoy the ride.